Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the medical concept with Dr. Falak Seher, and today we are going to discuss another a very important topic, that is autonomic nervous system. Regarding learning objective, at the end of this session you all should be able to define the autonomic nervous system, its two main divisions, the sympathetic as well as parasympathetic nervous system, their function and the receptors involved. You know that nervous system is divided into central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is further divided into its afferent, the sensory division, or efferent or motor division. Efferent or motor division is further divided into somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system as well as enteric nervous system. Enteric nervous system is a subdivision of the autonomic nervous system that consists of an intrinsic network of neurons that are located within the wall of the gastrointestinal tracts, and they are responsible for the regulation, the motility, secretion, and the local blood flow independently of the central nervous system. In this lecture, we are going to discuss more about the sympathetic nervous system as well as the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, what is the definition of autonomic nervous system? It's actually a part of the peripheral nervous system that maintains homeostasis by regulating involuntary physiological processes of the body. Now coming to the connections of the autonomic nervous system. Suppose that this is the central nervous system, this is autonomic nervous system, and here you will find various type of effector organs. Autonomic nervous system is actually a two-way communication system that is continuously receiving signals from the central nervous system, and then these signals passes to the effector organs. Similarly, signals from the effector organ, they reaches to the central nervous system by means of the autonomic nervous system, and thus the process goes on. Now, autonomic nervous system is divided into two main divisions, parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system get its origin from the cranial nerve number 3, 7, 9 and 10, and where sacral segment, that is from S2 to S4. So that's why this is also known as craniosacral segment. Second is the sympathetic nervous system that gets its origin from the thoracic spinal cord as well as the lumbar spinal cord. It extends from thoracic 1 to sometime L2 or L3 level of the spinal cord. So that's why it's also known as thoracolumbar system. Now, the main function of the parasympathetic nervous system is basically the rest and digestion. It's used to conserve energy, it slows the heart rate, it stimulates digestion, and it promotes recovery. While the sympathetic nervous system, it mainly functions in the fight and flight mode. It increases the heart rate, it dilates the airways, it inhibits the digestion, as well as it mobilizes the energy. Regarding different effector organs, we have smooth muscles like blood vessels, the airways, the pupillary muscles, the cardiac muscles, the glands, and various other internal organs of the digestive system like bladder, reproductive organ. They're all considered as the effector organs for the autonomic nervous system. In short, we can say that autonomic nervous system, it regulates involuntary body functions through two main complementary divisions that are working in balance. Now let's first discuss the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system gets its origin from the lateral gray column of the spinal cord, especially from thoracic 1 to lumbar 2 or sometime lumbar 3 segment of the spinal cord. The preganglionic neuron, for example, those that arise directly from the lateral gray column of the spinal cord, they are short in length, they exit via anterior root, and they synapse in the sympathetic chain, either paravertebral or prevertebral ganglia. And here the main neurotransmitter release is acetylcholine. So these are very important points that you have to remember as far as your exam is concerned. Now, the paravertebral sympathetic chain, they are the paired chain along the vertebral column. The ganglia are interconnected by the nerve fibers. The preganglionic fiber may either synapse at the same level or ascend or descend before synapsing. They enable rapid, widespread sympathetic response. Now coming to the prevertebral ganglia, they are located in the abdomen near major arteries. There are three in number, for example, celiac, superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric. They form nerve plexus. These preganglionic fibers, they pass through the chains to synapse here. Now, the postganglionic neurons that extend from these prevertebral or the paravertebral ganglia in the sympathetic nervous system, they are long. They reaches to the effector organ, and here the main neurotransmitter is noradrenaline. Remember, noradrenaline, with slight exception to the sweat gland, where you will find acetylcholine as the main sympathetic cholinergic neurotransmitter, and the effector organs could be different. It could be heart, it could be lungs, it could be gastrointestinal tract, or it could be sweat glands. Here is the summarized picture for the sympathetic pathway that we have just discussed. We just discussed the preganglionic neurons, then we discussed the paravertebral or the prevertebral ganglionic chain, and then we discussed the postganglionic neuron and their structure. Now coming to the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system gets its origin from oculomotor nerve, facial nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve and vagus nerve as a cranial outflow, while sacral segment 2 to sacral number 4 as a sacral outflow. Regarding the general characteristic of the presynaptic as well as the postganglionic neuron, remember that the presynaptic or the preganglionic fibers of the parasympathetic nervous system, they are long and the neurotransmitter releases acetylcholine, while the postganglionic fibers, they are short in length and they are going to release acetylcholine at their endings. They are responsible for the innervation of smooth muscles, the cardiac muscles, as well as the exocrine gland. And here, this is most important thing, that the ganglions of the parasympathetic nervous system, they are located near or on the wall of the target tissue, right? Regarding parasympathetic ganglion in the head, there are four pairs. First is the ciliary ganglion that is going to supply the iris and the ciliary muscles. Then we have pterygopalatine ganglia that supplies the lacrimal gland, the nasal, the palatine and other pharyngeal glands. Then we have submandibular ganglia that supply the sublingual and the submandibular gland. Otic ganglia that supplies the parotid gland. While for the abdomen we don't have such a specified ganglia, but they are all the terminal ganglia that are present at the surface of the thoracic or other abdominal organs, right? Okay. Now this is the summarized parasympathetic nervous system flow diagram that will help you in your exam. So just go ahead and read and learn it, right? Now briefly discuss the functions of the sympathetic nervous system. It prepares the body to face stress or danger by increasing the heart activity, breathing, metabolism, and energy availability, thus enabling a rapid fight or flight response. Regarding the functions of the parasympathetic nervous system, it slows down most of the body processes, it promotes energy conservation, and supports routine maintenance function. Hence, we can say that both sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic autonomic nervous system division, they work close together to continuously maintain the homeostasis of the body. Now coming to the another important topic, that is receptors of the autonomic nervous system. So first discuss sympathetic or adrenergic receptors. Here you can find five important receptors. We have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3. Alpha 1 receptors, they are important for the vasoconstriction, dilatation of the pupil as well as contraction of the sphincter muscles. Then we have alpha 2 receptor, it decreases the release of norepinephrine, it also inhibits the insulin release as well as it causes platelet aggregation. Then we have beta 1 receptors, they are responsible for increasing the heart rate as well as the contractility of the heart, and then they are going to increase the renin release from the kidney. Beta 2 receptors, they are important for the bronchodilation, vasodilatation, as well as they decreases the uterine tone. Regarding beta 3 receptors, they are important for the lipolysis and they cause relaxation of the detrusal muscles of the urinary bladder. Coming to the parasympathetic cholinergic receptors. Here you can see that we have again two different type of receptors, muscarinic receptors as well as nicotinic receptors. Muscarinic receptors are are of three types: M1, M2 and M3 receptors. M2 receptors are going to decrease the heart rate, while M3 receptors they are going to increase the glandular secretion, increase gastrointestinal motility, contraction of the bladder, as well as the causing of pupillary constriction. Exception is only the sweat glands that are innervated by the sympathetic fibers, but they uses M3 receptors. Then comes the nicotinic neural receptors. They are responsible for the transmission in all autonomic ganglia, specifically sympathetic as well as parasympathetic, as well as adrenal medulla at the level of the chromaffin cells. While the nicotinic muscular receptors, they are responsible for causing contraction of the skeletal muscles. This thing is very important that all preganglionic fibers that are sympathetic as well as parasympathetic, they're going to release acetylcholine at their preganglionic neurons, right? They are going to act on the nicotinic and N receptors in the ganglia. This is very important point as far as your exam is concerned. And here you can also find the method by which these receptors are going to cause these signaling. For example, alpha 1, M1 and M3 receptor. They are GQ related protein. GQ related protein are those type of G protein coupled receptor that are ultimately going to increase the concentration of the calcium inside the cell. Second, we have alpha 2 and the M2 receptor. They are going to decrease the concentration of adenylyl cyclase in the cell, and thus they decrease the concentration of cyclic AMP. Then we have beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3 receptor that acts through G stimulatory signaling pathway, and they are ultimately going to increase the cyclic AMP concentration inside the cell. And here is very important, pharmacological or the clinical example, that epinephrine, it's going to act act on the alpha 1 receptor to cause vasoconstriction, beta 1 receptor to increase the heart rate, and beta 2 receptor to cause bronchodilation. If atropine is given, it's ultimately going to block the muscarinic receptors, thus decrease the secretion, increases the heart rate as well as causes mydriasis. Beta blockers, if they are given, they are going to block the beta receptors, example propranolol, that is ultimately going to decrease the heart rate. While non-selective beta blockers, along with the epinephrine, they are going to cause unopposed action of the alpha 1 receptor, that is will lead to the severe type of hypertension. While anticholinergic drugs, they are responsible for the drying effect of the mouth. They are going to decrease salivary secretion by means of M3 receptor activity. Thus, this is the summarized picture of the receptors of the autonomic nervous system that will give you a quick review for your exam purpose. Now coming to the specific system and their comparison with the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic nervous system. Here you can find that sympathetic activity, it increases the cardiac output and redistribute blood to the vital organs, while parasympathetic activity, it slows the heart and limit the vascular effects. Regarding autonomic control of the respiratory system, sympathetic activity, it enhances ventilation by causing bronchodilation, increasing in the airflow, increased rate of the breathing, increased oxygen intake, increased carbon dioxide output to support increased metabolic demand during stress or exercise. While parasympathetic activity, it reduces airway caliber, causes bronchoconstriction and airflow during rest and digestive state. Regarding gastrointestinal control, sympathetic nervous system is associated with the fight or flight, so it mobilizes all the energy and prepares body for action, while the parasympathetic is mainly responsible for the rest and digestion. It conserves energy and promote body function. Now coming to the autonomic control of the eye, sympathetic system is actually responsible for the dilatation of the pupil as well as for the distance vision, while parasympathetic nervous system, it causes constriction of the pupil and is important for the near vision. Now for the autonomic control of the skin, remember that skin is predominantly under sympathetic control and no direct parasympathetic innervation is received by the skin. Okay, so this is very important point as far as your exam is concerned. So before we are going to ending our lecture, just revise important things for exam. First is the origin of the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system gets its origin from the thoracic 1 to lumbar 2 region. That's what's also known as thoracolumbar division. Parasympathetic nervous system gets its origin from cranial nerve 3, 7, 9 and 10 as well as the sacral segment S2 and S4. That's why it is also known as craniosacral segment. Regarding the length of the fibers, the preganglionic fiber in the sympathetic system, they are shorter, while the postganglionic fiber, they are longer. While the parasympathetic preganglionic fiber, they are longer, and the parasympathetic postganglionic fibers, they are shorter. Regarding the type of neurotransmitter released at the ending, all preganglionic, remember both autonomic nervous system divisions, they are going to release acetylcholine at their ending that act on the nicotinic receptors. While the sympathetic postganglionic nerve fiber, they are going to release norepinephrine, while the parasympathetic postganglionic fiber, they are going to act on the acetylcholine receptors that are actually the muscarinic receptors. Acetylcholine neurotransmitter that act on the muscarinic receptors. Then come the receptor adrenergic are specifically 3 alpha 1 that is vasoconstriction, beta 2 causes increase in the heart rate and force of the contractility of the heart, beta 2 is causing bronchodilation, muscarinic receptors M2 it decreases the heart rate, M3 receptors it going to increases the secretion and the smooth muscle contraction. Regarding certain pharmacological link, atropine it blocks the muscarinic receptors and beta blocker it causes blockage of the beta receptors. So thank you so much for your active listening, and inshallah we will meet next time with another physiological concept. Until then, Allah Hafiz.